Hey guys, it's Kels back at it again with another video, another Friday Night Live. I promise you that each and every Friday night I will show my face. So here I go, back at it again. I already see people's in the building, Marjorie in the building. Hey boo, hey, thanks for being here. I had to let you guys know. I have been sick as a dog. Sick as a dog underneath the weather. You know that phrase, underneath the weather? Underneath. And as a matter of fact, I was sick on the last live as well, but that was the beginning stages. And now I'm at the end stages, 7 to 10 days later. And all I gotta say is thank God that I'm out of the thick of it, because it definitely was playing tricks on my head and everything like that. And so that's kind of why I wanted to talk about tonight's subject. Tonight's subject is a little bit of a deep one. It is how to deal with fearful emotions, how to deal with fear, how to face fear, those types of conversations. But before we get into all of that, let's do our regular. You can see I'm sipping on some tea. Still trying to get the voice back, still trying to get the sinuses and everything intact and under control. So we're still sipping on some tea and some lemon and some honey and all of that. So you know the deal. Come on in. Let me know where you're watching from and what you are sipping on yourself. And also let me know how this week has been for y'all. Like, I will have to say, what I've been hearing a lot of is some really kind of not good, not good this week. A lot of people have been sick. A lot of people have that flu that like kind of whipped through everything. A lot of people have been just like, emotions have been all over the place. I kind of chalk it up to one, a lot of us have been sick. And then I also chalk it up to there was a lunar eclipse. And it's back-to-back eclipses. We had a solar eclipse the other day. And to me, that was great. That was fine. Like, everything was perfect on that one. But then when the lunar eclipse hit, oh my God. And we're still in the thick of it. We're going to be in it for the next 2 weeks. But when I tell you, when that lunar eclipse hit, plus I was sick, literally my mind was playing tricks on me. Like, when I tell you fear, I was just like, yo, I never experienced anything like this in my life. And y'all know I am optimistic, like super duper optimistic most of the time. But that fear licked me in my chest. I promise you, not only am I sick, but then I'm scared and all of that. So we'll get into it a little bit, but let me know, was it just me? Like, what was going on with me that that it's been such a rough week, and we're not out of it. You know what I mean? And so let me know how your week has been. What have you been feeling? Does this subject tonight resonate with you? Like, how to deal with fear, how to behave in the face of fearful emotions, how to control yourself in the face of fear. Does that make sense for y'all this week? But because the way it's looking like over here, yeah, it was heavy this week. Definitely heavy this week. And instead of sweeping it under the rug, I decided that, you know what, let's bring it to the collective. We go live each and every Friday night, 7 o'clock or thereabouts, to talk that talk. And so if I'm experiencing something this week heavy, I know y'all in the collective are feeling it, because I know I'm not out here by myself. I know I'm not out here by myself. So let me know how your week has been. What the hell? I mean, what the heezy has been going on? What has been going on? Let's get into it. All right, so clink, 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 clink. Cheers. Yes. Let me get my let me go ahead and get my little feed up so I can make sure I'm seeing you guys are seeing me and hearing me. Oh, why it's not? Oh, here it is. Is it here? There we go. Oh my gosh, it has been horrendous. Marjorie said, Marjorie said, terrible week, but so excited to see you. Thank you, bro. Thank you so much. Oh my gosh. Apartment life view. Hey, boo. Hey, thanks for being here. We're a little bit late, but we're still at it. This is week 47. What do I mean by week 47? It means 47 weeks consistently, consecutively going live each and every Friday night, reconnecting with the collective, showing my face, using my voice for this entire year of 2020. What are we in 2022? Child, I don't even know what year. I'm so shook this week. I don't even know what year we're in. I don't even know what year this is. But for this whole year, 2022, been going live from the top of the year all the way to the bottom. We are endeavoring to go 52 weeks consistent. And then after that, we're going to see, we might shake it up and do something different. But for the time being, this is week 47. Next week, we are on to week 48, all the way charioting through to week 52, and we're gonna call it a year and say a year of going live on YouTube. So our Apartment Live view is saying this week was blah, but happy it's Friday. TGIF. Clink, clink, clink. What are we cheersing to? We're cheersing to, I'm gonna have to cheers to adulting. I'm gonna have to cheers to being an adult, facing fears, knowing how to control and manage situations when they seem to be a little bit outside of your control, when you seem to be spiraling a bit, how to regain that control, how not to let it get too far, how to be gentle with yourself in the process of regaining your footing when things are not going as you expect them to go, and you're maybe having a little bit of a mental crisis, or a little bit of mental issue, or an emotional upheaval, or something serious hits the fan and you have to figure out how to stabilize yourself. So we're going to cheers to adulting successfully in the face of emotional upheaval. Okay? It's real life around here. It's real life around here. So so ain't no a reality show with fake made up storylines. It's real life over here. You know what I mean? And so let's cheers to holding it together and figuring out how to get your footing back under you when life gets really real and you start to get shook and that fear raises up. We're going to talk about it tonight, but before we get into it, cheers. Clink, clink, clink. Yes. Last week I tried to go live specifically on YouTube without the platform that I'm using, StreamYard. And when I tell you that thing was knucking and bucking and ready to fight, like every 20 minutes, that thing was knocking me off live. So this week I said, you know what? I'm not even going to play with you. I'm not even going to play with you, YouTube, internet, Wi-Fi, whatever you want to do. We're going to do it on StreamYard again, like we normally do. And it's going to be a seamless production like we're used to around here. Okay. So back to StreamYard, back to being able to see your comments, and back to a seamless production, as I said earlier. Okay. Guys, I'm going to go ahead and get into the conversation because I'm actually don't think I'm going to be on live super duper long tonight, just because I'm still recovering and still, as I said, getting my footing back underneath me. But I'm not going to let that stop me from honoring my word of showing up each and every Friday night. So we're at it. So let's start here. The subject line you can see is how to deal with fearful emotions. I played around with the subject line a little bit, and because I was trying to get the wording right so that it made sense what I was trying to say. But essentially what I'm talking about here is fear. And what do we mean by, like, what do I mean by fearful emotions? What do I mean by, how to deal with fear? It's that feeling that you get that might come over you that essentially works to stop you from having the self-confidence, or stop you from believing a positive outcome is available to you, or stops you from believing that everything is working out for you, or stops you from believing that you are supported and you are cared for and that you are loved, and that, optimism and hope and positivity is available to you. It's that emotion that comes over you. And I use the word emotion, but a lot of times fear is rooted in mindset. And so sometimes it's a mental thing that might be playing up with you, or might be spiraling you into a direction that makes you feel out of control, or makes you feel like adrenaline or shock, or something that rails up in your body that feels like it's outside of your control and it might be overcoming you. And so it seems like it might be, oh, an emotional thing, but a lot of times it's a mental thing or a mindset thing or something that you're thinking or that you're believing that may very well be an illusion, but still triggers you and spirals you into this state of internal anguish or internal discomfort or internal dis-ease or something that doesn't make you feel calm, cool, and collected. Instead, it puts you into a panic. And so it manifests as something emotional, but really it can start as something that is a mental seed that is some sort of a illusion that you've now started to believe and embody. And once you start to fully believe and embody that, then it manifests as an emotional turmoil or some sort of adrenaline or some sort of internal, strife that happens to you that seems as though it's an emotional thing. So the first thing I kind of want to talk about or bring our attention to when it comes to fear is that it's not just an emotional thing and it's not just a mental thing. It seems to be a mixture of the two. It seems to be a mixture of the two. And the reason why I start there with the conversation is because if you are aware that, oh, fear is a mixture of an emotional upheaval and a mental something that I'm believing or some sort of perspective that I am wedded to now, that is a bit of an illusion, then maybe you can pull from your tools in your toolbox that help you better navigate when fear presents itself in your life. You know what I mean? And so it's a multi-faceted, multi-dimensional human experience, right? I think the second thing is that everybody experiences it. It's not an isolated or individual experience. It is a part of being human. And you can't expect to live life or go through life and never have experienced any level of fear. Sometimes the fear is, kind of a little bit more of a juvenile fear of Freddy Krueger, fear of the dark, fear of, dogs or some sort of phobia or something like that. Then it can run the gamut all the way up to some sort of maybe like a depression or some sort of chronic mental illness that triggers your hormones in your body to be going off the Richter scale. And so the fear is embedded in your body and not just something that you saw on TV or a scary story that you heard. So there is a spectrum that fear manifests on, that when you're younger, it's like, oh, I'm scared of the dark, or it's Halloween, I'm scared, or Freddy Krueger is scary, to, yo, I do not know if I will survive this. I cannot sleep. I am not eating. I am spiraling into some sort of, mental, issue. A lot of people who have depression or who deal with mental illness can tell you about that darker, that realer part about fear, and not just kind of the lighter parts that we, kind of, you know drum up in ourselves, like on movies or shows, or zombie shows or things like that. And so fear can definitely run the full gamut of on the lighter end and the deeper end, but it's something that you don't escape. It's a part of being human. You cannot escape being afraid and being fearful. And so I think the main thing that we can do is understand again that it is a mental thing and it is an emotional thing as well. It's in your emotional body and it's in your physical body and it can be in your mind. And then it's, what tools do you pull up? What tools do you reach for when you're trying to pacify this fear when it inevitably comes up in your life? What can you do to soothe and gently get yourself back into a place of clarity? Because I think one of the other big things about fear is that it's a fog. It's almost like depression as well. It just fogs you out, that you can't even think clearly. You can't even decipher what is the truth and what is this overwhelming feeling that you might be having at this time or over this period of time. And so I think that's the most dangerous thing about fear, is that how it clouds you and it doesn't allow you to use your faculty in the most clear way. And so that's another thing that I want you to be aware of when fear is around, is that it is not, you're not seeing through in the most clear way when you're in the grips or in the throes of fear. You know what I mean? And so your work then is to try to figure out how to get yourself back into a point of calm and clarity so that you can make the best decision and not make a permanent decision based on a temporary experience. Because fear can very well make you make a permanent decision, all clouded, a permanent decision based off this temporary experience of fear. So it's important to recognize it immediately that this is temporary and that I may not be thinking clearly at this point. And what tools can I pull from my repertoire, from my, compendium, whatever I got to bring me back into place of control over these thoughts, or control over this emotional reaction, or control over just this moment in time. Regain my groundedness, so that I can make a better decision about how I want to feel in this moment. I can tell you the one of the reasons I'm gonna give you guys a little bit of a personal, what's going on with me this week. So the reason why I decided to talk about fear was because I've made uh, a very fear evoking decision in my life recently. And I have been, when I was in perfect health and everything like that, and I had my routines and I knew how to keep myself, I want to say high, but like how I want to keep myself in the highest vibrational resonance, in the highest mood. I talked to you guys a couple weeks ago. I've been saying that my whole goal right now is to keep myself in the best, highest mood, because that is what is going to give me the best outcome on the decisions in the past that I'm paving for myself right now. That is my belief, and that is how I'm working with law of attraction right now, is keeping my mood so high that what is attracted to me has no choice but to be on that same high vibrational resonance. And so that is what I have been working with. And in order for me to keep myself high, I have tools that I use. I work out a lot. I watch what I eat, switched all my food to organic food that I can, significantly upped my water intake, changed I told y'all I don't even wake up to the same alarm sound in the morning, changed everything. My vitamins that I take in my supplements, different. You know what I mean? Acupuncture, I've tried acupuncture, always was doing massage still, yoga, upped it to 2 times a week. I recognized that that was a huge thing for me because I was watching some of my old videos, and in one of my old videos on here on my channel, I had said, I was in one of these really good moods, and I was like, oh yeah, and I upped my yoga to 2 times a week. And I hadn't remembered that I'd done that. And I'm back in that position now in my life, maybe 6 years later. And I'm like, oh, whenever I do that, things change for me. And so I was like, oh, I didn't recognize that. But watching my old videos, I did. So my yoga's up, up to 2 times a week, plus my lifting and all those other things. Don't watch the news. Very careful what I ingest in the day. Like, just very meticulously trying to keep my mood in an elevated place. And I was doing pretty good, and pretty good with all of that. And then I end up getting sick. And normally getting sick is like not big of a deal. I don't even get sick. I very rarely get sick. But of course, we're in the era right now where it's like all of a sudden it's so easy to get sick, and it's just in the air. You brunch against somebody and all of a sudden you're sick for 7 to 10 days. So I end up sick, and this thing knocked me on my behind, and threw me off of all of my routines. So my jumping up and going to the gym every day or every other day, my food, cooking my food and caring for myself, my sleep, everything got thrown off because now I'm sick. And at first it was okay, but then other things started to happen as well. Some celebrities who normally I wouldn't care about, people getting killed and stuff like that. And then then there was what I really feel like was playing up in my life, which really elevated my fear levels this week, was not ill, being sick and being ill, and like trying to monitor myself and making sure that, things are not getting worse, or things are going in the right direction and things like that. um Also, there was the lunar eclipse, and you guys know I usually start off our Friday nights talking about what's happening in celestial, what's happening in the cosmos, because I am a firm believer that what happens with the planets, particularly the moon, really will affect you, excuse me, emotionally. It really will affect you. And so we've had a series of eclipses, and these eclipses, and just if you just are not fully aware, just for me to drop a little bit of a knowledge for you, whenever big things like solar or lunar eclipses happen, these are big changes that are being ushered in your life. Relationship changes, works changes, dynamic changes, physical changes, major changes in your life end up being ushered in based on these eclipses that happen. That's the point of them. They come to fuck shit up. Excuse my language. They come to chop, 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 give you tower moments and shake things up and ask you to either if it's that important to you, rebuild it. Or if it's not important to you, let it crumble, let it go. You know what I mean? Or if it's time to let it go and time to move on, then let it go and move on. Those type of fundamental changes in your life. And so the solar eclipse was okay. I had, my dreams were on point. I was like, yes, for solar eclipse, come on. Then that lunar eclipse hit a couple nights ago, and even a week before that, you still feel it. 2 weeks after, you're still gonna feel it. It was on a full moon. Y'all already know. For anybody who works in the medical field, you know that whenever there's a full moon, the doggone hospitals be full. The doggone hospitals be full. The other day I was talking to my mom. She was saying it's flooding. Hurricane Nicole was coming, and she was saying, on the beach, on Miami Beach, it was flooded because because of the full moon, and the water table was high. You know what I mean? And so if you can believe those, things that are commonly said about when there's a full moon, please believe that when there's eclipses and big things happening, it does affect you. You know what I mean? It affects everybody. And so I felt like this lunar eclipse had me in the throes of like fear, because I had made this big change in my life, and I was trying to keep my, I was nervous about it. Seeing 2222 on the clock, if you're into numbers like I am, 2222. I was in the throes of keeping myself calm about this change that I made, and just keeping it low and just working through it and letting the new opportunities and the new unfoldings of my life come in. But when I got sick, and then when the lunar eclipse happened, if you know anything about lunation, it drudges up the deeper, darker, fearful emotions within you and asks you to face them. And so I am sick and night sweats and all kinds of things, and dreaming the most terrifying things. And for me, I'm gonna tell you what my fears are. And I had asked this uh on Instagram, what are some of your fears? What are some of your fears? Like, what do you think your fears are? Is it fear of poverty, fear of death? Is it fear of loneliness? Is it fear of failure? Is it fear of success? Is it fear of illness? Is it fear of making a mistake? What do you think people are most afraid of? And for me, it's fear of making a mistake, and it's fear of poverty. You know what I mean? It's fear of not being able to care for myself financially in a way that I'm used to, because I don't have anybody to rely on like that. You know what I mean? And then fear of making a mistake, and fear of like trying to do something that is too idealistic, that is too optimistic, that's too hopeful, that's too Alice in Wonderland, because I have a tendency to be that way, especially when I get bored with life. I'm just like, this is boring. I want to live a high life. I don't want to live this boring. I don't want to live this boringness. You know what I mean? And so, when you're in that way, and everybody else is living a very proper adult, oh yeah, normal life, and you want to live this big, fanciful Alice in Wonderland, almost borderline, naive life, it can be very scary because you're out there on your own and you're out there doing it yourself, and you have to make it work, or otherwise face the fear of being wrong, face the fear of making a mistake, face the fear of failure. And so I'm in the midst of that and just refinagling things in my life, and I was a little bit scared. But when that lunar eclipse hit and illness hit, and I got shaken off of my routine, my very disciplined routine of keeping my emotions, in a high resonance, I started to, my mind started to play tricks on me. And then, you have to be isolated and locked in the house because you're sick and you can't be out here in these streets all sick in front of people and stuff like that. You know what I mean? And you're in bed, and my mind starts playing tricks on me. And all of these fears that would have normally been super under control or just light, or could have been popped up in my head, and I could have immediately caught it and been like, no, 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 I can't lose. I can't lose. Here's why I can't lose. This is why I looking at all the, the reasons why I can't. I wasn't able to catch those thoughts and control it. And they ended up getting bigger and bigger and all encompassing, you know, in my life. And then they end up showing up in your dreams. Why did I have a dream that the market crashed, and that completely, and that everybody, and that I needed to get $10,000 cash, in a safe, all kinds of crazy, call my brother, asking him about what he's dreaming. There's no food on the shelves, and and so this kind of fear mongering that they usually put on a television in terms of recession, or in terms of supply chain, or all of this stuff, was showing up in my dreams. And I normally don't dream anything like that. And nothing like that I dream rich forever. When I tell you, when the solar eclipse, when the solar eclipse happened, my dreams, I woke up and the first thing that popped in my head is what I dreamt, said rich forever. I was like, yes, this is the type of dreams I usually dream. So for me to be sitting here sick, night sweats, and dreaming about market crash and no food on the shelves, and needing to get a safe, and needing to get this and protect it, dreaming all of these kind of fear mongering things, it shook me. It shook me because I don't dream them type of things. I don't dream them type of things. I'm super duper uber optimistic. You know what I mean? And so I really had to pull from I really had to figure out, like, yo, what is going on with me? What is going on? All kind of conspiracy theories. I'm like, oh, and this was the same day. Let me tell you, when the dream and all of this kind of negative, fearful emotions railed up, it was the same day that they fall the clocks back. So daylight savings, or whatever they call it, where they made the time drop an hour back. And so I'm sitting here now thinking, yo, what kind of conspiracy theory? Why they pumping out fear to the people, and like kinds, all kinds of stuff, all kind of things that I normally don't think. And as I was talking to my family about it, like, yo, what is going on with me? I recognize that, I think this is what people on the day to day are actually worried about. It almost felt as if I was pulled from because I spent a lot of my days and my times in this very kind of ethereal, hopeful, optimistic, rose-colored glasses type, and I do it intentionally. You know what I mean? I do it intentionally because that's where I want to stay. And I felt like I would have normally been like flying above all the BS, you know what I mean, and not even paying attention to what was going on, and just keeping myself happy as possible. And I felt like I was drugged down into what most people are living on the day to day. And it was in the throes of fear and anxiety and worriedness, and how to feed the family, and how we're going to survive. And I was like, yo, oh my gosh. It was a little bit of a wake up call to me, because I'm like, yo, I think this is what people normally live with day to day. You know what I mean? And I'm like, this is why I don't be watching the news. I don't pay attention to politics no more, barely. I run and do my little voting and bounce. I'm not into no conversations about no politician, no used car salesman selling a bag of dreams, none of that. You know what I mean? I'm just, and so I was just like, yo, I think this is what people are living with day to day. I think this is what people are living with day to day. And so I really had to figure out how to get myself out of it and just like take it day by day, because it was not just a one day feeling. It was like going to sleep with this feeling of fear and waking up with this feeling of fear. And I was like, yo, this is terrifying. You know what I mean? And like I really started to have empathy for people who, as I said before, have depression, because when you have depression, it is something that is like outside of your control. It's not just this feeling of being sad, it's your mind is almost like playing tricks on you. You know what I mean? And you can isolate, you can end up isolating yourself from your friends and your family and feeling like nothing's worth it, and just this very deep dark mental state. You know what I mean? And I almost felt, and I don't have depression or anything like that, but I almost felt like, oh, this might be a one little uh instance of what that might feel like. You know what I mean? And that in itself was terrifying. You know what I mean? That in itself was terrifying, because I was like, yo, what if I was not able to get myself out of this? What if the tools that I had in my back pocket don't don't let soothe my mind, and I needed to go to get professional help and get professional medication and things like that, or it was something that you had to battle with, because you hear about it, but I never experienced anything like that. And I swear that the way my mind was playing tricks on me, I was like, yo, this must be, what it's like, when you're fighting with your mind over things like that, or when you're spiraling, or when you're having some sort of mental health concern. You know what I mean? And so that is kind of where I was, where I was with all of that. Okay. So I think I also, was thinking about it a little bit more, and I was like, well, what is it about fear that is so scary? What is it about fear and the emotions of fear that are so scary? And I feel like it's a couple things. I think we as humans are very afraid of change, and change is the most inevitable part of being alive, is that things will change. And even when it seems like things are not changing, we will never get tomorrow back. We will never see a day like tomorrow again. We will never see a sunrise or a sunset or anything like tomorrow again. And so the nature of life is this habitual change. And I think we forget that, because we spend a lot of our times trying to put structure and discipline and routines. I spend a lot of time, trying to put structure and discipline and routines and predictability into life. And I think by nature, life is completely unpredictable. You know what I mean? And your mind will fight with you over that. Your mind will drum up fear over that unpredictable nature of life. And so I think if we can bring our awareness to, oh, that might be why fear is drumming up for me, is because I'm feeling out of control. I'm feeling that things are changing. I'm feeling that things are slipping away. Control is slipping away from me. And your mind does not like that feeling. But you have to be aware on some level that that's what life is. It is unpredictable. And you just have to face it day by day and make the decisions with what's in front of you. You know what I mean? As best you can, and so the change, the loss of control, your mind putting up resistance to this change that's always habitually happening, with life. And sometimes the change is slow, and so you don't even notice it. But sometimes it's yesterday, your life will never be the same in an instant. You know what I mean? And things like that. So it's this work to stabilize your mind and soothe your mind in the face of all of this change and all of this upheaval. Sometimes I think we forget that we're animals. I think we forget that we animals, and we forget that when things start to change in the environment, you can sense it or you can feel it before you can put exactly your finger on what's happening. And so when that starts to happen, when eclipses start to happen, when the seasons start to change, when the energetic fields around us that we can't see or taste or touch, but we can sense on some level start to shift and to change, it can drum up a sense of anxiety and fear because you can tell that things are changing, but you can't exactly tell what is changing, and you and your mind starts to seize up and freak out about that. You know what I mean? And so sometimes fear can be a little bit irrational. There's nothing truly, no one jumped out from behind something and said boo to you. You know what I mean? But something is changing energetically. Something is changing seasonally, and you can pick it up, with your spidey senses, and it can spiral you into a sense of fear, especially when you're in a very vulnerable state, like if you're sick, or if your children's sick, or your spouse is sick, or you're having some sort of financial change, or you're having some sort of physical change, or something in your life is different where you don't feel that you're on your full grounded power, and then something environmentally starts changing, or some unseen start to change. It can really freak you out. It can really freak you out. But I talk openly about this now because perhaps if you're in it or you're experiencing something, you can have a sense or a little bit of clarity of, oh, might be what's happening here. Or at least you can bring some sense into the nonsense, into the illusion that is fear. You know what I mean? Into the fogginess that is fear. If you can just bring a little bit of clarity into it in some places, perhaps you can regain your footing and your grounding. Yeah, and so that change, that loss of control, and that instability can really drum up fear. You know what I mean? And so if you can bring your awareness to that, perhaps you can like stabilize in some way, and gain control and mastery over your emotions and mastery over your mindsets, that can bring some more stability. For me, I think one of the things that I ended up feeling, good enough yesterday to end up going to the gym. And I didn't do anything crazy. I just ended up walking on the treadmill. And as soon as I started to walk, I was like, oh my God, thank God. I know that for me, uh, gaining control over my body by going to the gym or doing something physical really helps me to release or to let go of or to soothe any fears that drum up. Because fear, as I said earlier in the broadcast, it can be in your mind, it can be an emotion, it can be in your body, it can be in the energetic field around you. You can pick it up from your neighbors, it can be pushed out to you through the television, through radio, through media that you consume, that you hear, that you listen to, that you watch, that you absorb into your body. You can absorb the fears of others. You know what I mean? You can absorb the fears of others. And so for me, I recognize that, oh, okay, if I can gain control over my body through some sort of physical fitness, through I can release some of the fear that was gripping me and gripping my mind. You know what I mean? And so just going for a walk, just taking some deep breaths, just drinking more water, just getting more hydration into my body, and watching and monitoring the foods that I'm eating and making sure that they are high vibrational foods and not junk food can really help me regain my footing and my grounding. Another thing is, with grounding and that stability and that security, bringing that back by walking barefoot outside in the grass, just grounding yourself into the same field as the earth. The security, the stability of it can help you feel a little bit more stabilized. A lot of people who have panic attacks or anxiety attacks, a lot of times they'll tell you some of the things when you're in the middle of an anxiety attack, when your anxiety is running away with you, is they'll tell you to put your feet flat on the ground and then breathe, and then also touch something. What are you feeling? Tell me what you're feeling. Tell me what you're hearing. Tell me what you're smelling. Tell me what you're seeing. So it's like bringing your emotions out of your head and in a panic and grounding it down into the physical. And so that grounding and that walking outside or going for a walk can help do that same thing when fear starts to play up and starts to wreak havoc, in your mind. And so I ended up walking. I didn't end up going outside because it was cold and things like that, but I did walk. I was like, I'm gonna walk on the treadmill. And that, as soon as my blood started pumping and my breath, you start to focus on your breathing and things like that. All of that was very helpful in kind of getting rid of some of that fear. You guys know I have been meditating daily, and I missed a day or two when I was sick, and I think that really played with the fear as well, because when you meditate, you're quieting your mind, and for me, the fear that I was experiencing felt really like a mental kind of thing. And so I missed my meditation a couple of days because I just wasn't feeling I wasn't feeling well. And I think that played into the fear as well. And so I got back was able to get my mind in a state where I was able to actually quiet my mind and get back into my meditation as well, my daily meditation, just like 20 to 40 minutes a day. And that really helped as well. And then as I was starting to feel better, and the illness kind of was leaving my body, and I was healing myself and drinking my teas and resting, sleeping 10, 11 hours a day, and just like, just keeping myself as getting as much, honoring my rest as much as I could. As I started to feel better, then that fear started to kind of leave, and I could control it a little bit better. So I recognized that, oh, I think maybe that feeling of fear was also tied to, the sickness that I was feeling. You know what I mean? And so that, sometimes I don't know if people recognize that there could be a tie with that too, that if you're physically not well, that fear can be a manifestation of that illness as well. You know what I mean? And so there is this connectedness between what you're experiencing mentally or emotionally, and the wellness and the wholeness of your physical body. You know? Yeah. Pamela View is saying, yes, physical activity usually helps me as well with reducing the fear. Definitely. Definitely. And then Marjorie is saying fear is powerful. It is very powerful. It is very powerful. Crying. Crying. Did a lot of that. Over the last couple of days. I had a girlfriend of mine tell me that she's been crying for the last 3 days, and she said that a big betrayal was revealed to her um, over the last few days, and she just ended up crying for 3 days. You know what I mean? And I was like, girl, I've been crying too. These emotions have been off the Richter scale off the Richter scale. You know what I mean? And so I think it's okay to do that and to relieve some of the tension and the pressure, opening up the release valve, you know what I mean? But it is definitely powerful, and can play with you, you know what I mean? And I kept saying to my brother, my family, my mind is playing tricks on me. Oh my God. And I once I finally was able to feel better enough to get to the gym, I said to my brother, I was like, you need to get in the gym. You need to get in the gym. This cabin fever will have your mind playing all kind of tricks on you. So your best bet is to get in the gym and work through it and gain control, at least over your body, so that the control over your mental state is a little bit easier as well. Because fear, especially one of the reasons why it's so powerful right now is because it's palpable. It's palpable. That is what is being used to control us right now. Oh, fear of recession, fear of poverty, fear of food is off the shelves, fear of guns, fear of the wrong political party in office, fear of not having enough, fear of losing this, fear of changing that. Fear is used to control us and get us to feed into what the matrix wants us to buy into. And so it is extremely powerful. And it's not only is it extremely powerful, it's being used on a daily. So it's easy to access. It's easy to slip right into fear. It's easy to be, because it's being used and employed on the daily to control the masses. So you can easily slip into it because that's what's being used and that's what's being employed. Marjorie saying fear can push us into a downward spiral, and grounding yourself is the best treatment. That for me, that has been like one of the most important things. Seeing 44 on the clock, if you're into numbers like I am. But yeah, that grounding, trying to catch that spiral, and grounding. And then also just knowing, at least just having the wherewithal, even in the midst of the fear, even in the midst of the irrational cloudiness of it, you know, even in the midst of the illusion of it, just knowing, just giving yourself tomorrow, just knowing, okay, I just need to get through. Just let me get to bed. Let me go take a shower and let me go to sleep. And tomorrow I will be able to navigate this better. I will be able to navigate this better. You know what I mean? And not letting it spiral you into a panic. Catch it where you can, and then, you know, whatever grounding practices or going to sleep or something like that is how I kind of dealt with it, and just took my medication, took my sleep medication and knocked out. You know what I mean? Drank my chamomile tea, knocked out. You know what I mean? And just try to make myself feel better day by day until my body was back to wholeness, and that this fear dissipated and went the hell back where it came from. Go back, return to sender, return to sender. You are not welcome here. Okay. Yeah. So definitely control over your body. You know what I mean? And understanding that your mind could be playing a little bit of tricks on you, but you do have some tools in your toolbox to employ when that fear starts picking up. And just as we said at the top of the broadcast, fear is a part of the human experience. There's no way to escape it. There's no way to escape it. But the best thing that you can do is know how to, what to do and how to deal with it when it does show up for you. But it's something that's unavoidable. You know what I mean? But what you can hope for as an adult, as somebody who is leveling up, is to be able to have just enough space, even in the midst of the fear, to maybe just do one thing that you know can make that fear dissipated, you know, dissipated a bit. You know what I mean? And for me, that was, you know, sleeping and crying and getting a workout in, and the workout was literally walking on the treadmill, walking on the treadmill. You know what I mean? And then calling, you know, my family, you know, and normally I isolate when I get scared. So it was a real struggle to be like, okay, let me make sure I'm staying in communication. You know what I mean? And so that was another tool that I had in my toolbox, that I knew, like, stay in communication, because I will isolate. I will isolate. So, you know what I mean? So definitely these fearful kind of emotions have been insane. So hopefully we're saying something here that you can at least remember a little bit of if you end up in a situation like I've been this week. Yeah. Um, yeah. That's pretty much, I'm trying to think what else really helped me this week. As I said, I don't think that it was an individual thing. I think it had a lot to do with what's been happening, just, you know, globally and societally, and with the, you know, with the planets and things like that, and the eclipses and things like that. And so I at least had in my head, just keep going, keep going, keep going. If you're going through hell, keep going, keep going, keep going, because it's going to get easier day by day. I'm going to get better day by day. The energies are going to shift day by day. And so I just need to make it to the next day, and, you know, not beat up on myself, give myself grace in the midst of this fear. I didn't want to spend too much time in it, because as I said, I'm trying to be mindful of where my mental and my emotional states are, because I want to hold them high. You know what I mean? And I want to be an intentional creator and an intentional thinker and an intentional manifester. And so even in the midst of this fear that seemed to have me in this grips, I was trying to figure out a way to not let it spiral too far, because of that mastery I want to have over my thoughts. You know what I mean? Um, and so the best thing I could do. Oh, also a hot shower. Like when I was really like if things felt like out of control, I was like, oh, let me get in the shower. Let me get in the shower. Let me cut the energy. Let me cut the energy. And so if I felt like the momentum of fear was picking up in a direction, the one thing I could at least do is like, what can I do to cut this energy? What can I do to slow the momentum of this? And sleeping or go working out or taking a shower really is something that I use a lot to like cut the momentum. You know what I mean? I don't like this direction. I don't like this feeling. Let me go take a hot shower. You know what I mean? And so I think that, and so once you come out of the shower, then it slows any spiraling that might be happening. You know what I mean? And so instead of letting it be all consuming in you, you kind of take control of the situation in some little way, and then that little seed of control in the situation can blossom into, okay, I feel better. I feel better. Let me get some water. Let me drink some water now. I feel better. I feel better. I feel better. Everything is fine. You know what I mean? And kind of control it that way. Definitely was challenging. Definitely was challenging, but allowed me to exercise some of the tools that I don't normally have to use. You know what I mean? Because normally things are so routine and things are feeling so good that you just stay in that momentum of positivity or upliftment or happiness and joy. But, you know, as I said, fear is unavoidable, and those kind of darker spiraling feelings are things that we all kind of go through. And so it's important to keep your tools sharp, you know what I mean? And when you're doing that, when you're in the midst of those kind of spiraling kind of feelings. Oh my gosh, I mean, I feel like the camera angle has been a little bit weird. Rubes is saying, Abe Hicks helps me so much when I'm in a fear place, to stop, notice it, and then ease into the next best feeling place. Emotional guidance scale on 10, that 100,000. I feel you. Listening to music, listening to podcasts, something that shifts the 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 energy or the momentum of that feeling. Putting on music, putting on uplifting music, putting on an uplifting teacher like Abraham Hicks, putting on a podcast, you know what I mean? Calling a friend. Music helps a lot. Music helps a lot. I did when I first was feeling sick, I put on music. I said, okay, I want to cut this uh, energy, this illness at its knees. So I'm going to have to put on some good music. I'm going to have to burn certain incense. I'm going to have to try to keep it under control and not let it spiral me into the abyss of illness. You know what I mean? And so definitely Abe Hicks is helpful for that. I'm trying to think. Also, another thing that I didn't really I read it in my journal, because I flipped back through my journal, and I found this tip that I had for myself, but I didn't really employ it when I was feeling panicked and scared this time. But I do want to share it with you just in case you have an opportunity to employ it. And it was instead of and I don't know if it's so much about fear, but it's in when you're in a negative, you might be going spiraling negatively. One of the things that I had written about was, instead of fighting with the negative feeling, or being focused on the negative feelings, or feeling like you're putting up resistance to it, you can stop and you can observe it, and then you can decide what you want instead. So instead of fighting against what you don't want, you can take a moment to decide what you would like instead. Decide what you would like instead. So you could be experiencing something where you're feeling scared, or you're feeling fearful, or you're feeling sick, or you're not feeling your best. And you could be fighting with that, and maybe kind of a little bit kicking yourself about, why do I feel this way? I don't feel good. When is this going to be over? Why me? What is going on? And you could spiral in that direction. But if for one moment you can catch yourself and halt the momentum. Maybe it is go for that walk, or maybe it is drink water, or maybe it is go take a shower, or maybe it is go take a nap, or maybe it is play some music, or maybe it is play a podcast, and also decide what you want instead. Take a moment to decide what you want instead. So you're an intentional thinker about what's happening. So instead of spiraling into the negative way, stop and say, what do I want instead? Call out what you want instead. I want to feel better. I want to feel clarity. I want to feel confident right now. I desire to feel happier right now. I desire to feel secure right now. I desire to feel more stable right now. I desire to feel rested right now. I desire to breathe easier right now. I desire to feel better in my body right now. Call out what you want instead. So instead of spiraling and fighting with what you don't want, be the decider of what you do want in that moment. Call it out, speak it out, write it out. I do not want that fear. Fear is not welcome here. What is welcome here is confidence is welcome here. Joy is welcomed here. Optimism is welcome here. Wholeness is welcomed here. Call out what you want instead of spiraling into the fear or spiraling into the woe is me. I didn't get a chance to employ that when I was in the midst of my whole fear thing, but I just want to speak it to you and speak it out into the universe and put it on capture it on video, capture it on our lives, so that if you ever need to watch this video back, you ever need to watch this live back about how to manage fearful emotions, how to control fearful emotions, you have that tool of deciding what you want instead, calling it out, and not just be allowing the fear to cloud you where you can't decide what's best for you in that moment. Decide. Even just deciding what you want is powerful. Even if you can't put any other action behind it in that moment besides deciding, that is powerful. Even more powerful than the fear when it starts to gain momentum in your life. Okay? I know this subject I wanted to talk about real shit. I wanted to talk about real shit on our channel tonight because this week has been very, very challenging for me. And I know that if I feel like, yo, it's been tough this week, I know that other people have been sensing that as well. And if you're not sensing it this week, it might be next week for you. Or if it wasn't this week, it might have been the week past. You know what I mean? So with that said, I do these videos so you're not out here alone in this sometimes crazy living, loving, dating, leveling up, ascending world. If this is your first time here, I'd love to have you subscribe. Smash that like button. I'll wait. Smash that like button. It's a free and easy way to support the content, to support the channel, and it does help me with the YouTube algorithm. You guys know that algorithm be doing whatever it want to do. So you leaving comments below, if you're part of the replay gang, you smashing that like button really does help the channel and the content and the mission here in the Iskels Collective to be picked up by the YouTube algorithm so more people can see this important content, and not always Real Housewives of whatever, not always love and hip hop, not always Carisha Please and Diddy. Sometimes it's real adult conversations as we try to navigate real life, as we try to empower ourselves moving forward. This is week 47 of our Friday night kickbacks, where we go live each and every Friday night to talk that talk, to talk about the topics you guys selected. Tonight we are talking about fear and what tools you have in your toolbox to be able to overcome and control and stabilize yourself in the midst of fear that may be embodied in your body, in your emotional uh, body, in your mind, in the collective consciousness, and how to bring yourself back to stability, back to wholeness, back to clarity, back to focus, and then up higher into joy and happiness and thrill as you move along that emotional scale and try to get from fear, which is on the lower end of it, back up to wholeness, happiness, stability, peace. Peace. Yeah. Smash, smash, smash that like button. I'm mostly replay gang, but I love catching you live. Thank you so much, Marjorie. We're here each and every Friday. We're here each and every Friday, and we're going to go from week 47 to week 52, almost a full year of using our voices and showing our faces and showing up for the Iskals collective. With that being said, wishing everyone a better week. I'm feeling better, so hopefully everybody else is feeling better as well. And we can continue on, keeping our head low a little bit till we get fully through this eclipse season. It's going to be another about week and a half. So take your time, slow down, slow down. Yeah, slow down, take your time and rest. Honor your rest. Honor your rest. Yeah. With that being said, I appreciate you guys so much. I will see you again next week. Bye, Roots. Thank you.